Welcome back to Who Would Win. Today's Who Would it's not the last of the Who Wins. We got a couple, 2, 3 more days, or at least a couple more days. Today's Who Would Win comes from today's final. I am a mess right now. Today's Who Would Win comes to us from egotistical Ghost, who clearly asks who would win in a fight: Anakin Skywalker versus Aang. I guess there's some chosen one symbolism here. Aang's not the chosen one, mind you, but he's definitely the avatar who changed the cycle, who changed the way that kind of avatars kind of did things. Aang, we know, is the avatar. He is the bridge between the spirit worlds. He can go into the spirit world, commune with the spirits, but beyond that, and more importantly, as far as the combat, he is capable of bending all 4 elements. And Aang learned even to bend the energy within someone to take away their bending or special ability, whatever you will. Aang's level of skill and power by his peak were kind of unrivaled. Aang was considered pretty much a force of nature in terms of how powerful he was. Obviously, as a natural airbender, that is where his bread and butter abilities lie. Creating domes for the little whirly ball for travel, giant gusts of air, defensive spheres, cutting the blades of air, summoning giant tornadoes with water. He was capable of forming whips, ice, massive tidal waves, you name it. He could pretty much do it, except I don't think he could heal. That was one of the things he couldn't do. Fire, he was actually a natural firebender, with air being very related to fire in terms of how it's produced. Unfortunately, he was never able to produce lightning, as far as we know. Then Earth was the one that Aang had the most difficulty with, but Aang very quickly got Earth down after he started to learn Earth. He was able to do things like create armor out of Earth, be it like with crystals or with actual Earth, moving massive boulders, created an entire zoo for the Bossing Say animals out of the Earth. Like, even though he said his earthbending could use some work, even though Toph said that his earthbending could still use some work before facing Ozai, his earthbending was still freaking top notch. And then obviously the energy bending, where he can actually override someone's spirit and manipulate their own chi, ki, whatever you want to call it, life force. And this, at least in Bender's case, take their bending away. Now this, as powerful as, has 2 problems. 1, he actually has to physically touch someone on the head to do so. And 2, he needs to be able to overpower their spirit. If their spirit overpowers him, he will be corrupted and destroyed. Aang is a natural athlete, very agile. He's not a physical combatant like, say, Toph is, or Zuko is trained in martial arts, but he is very much adept in physical combat in the sense of parry, dodge, and counter-strike with wind. Aang's also very intelligent for what's worth. He's not truly a military strategist in any real way, but he is a very competent, think on the fly kind of guy. So with Anakin, we know Anakin, he was the chosen one. He was supposed to bring balance into the Force, not destroy it. Yeah, he was the chosen one. Now we will look at Anakin at Anakin's peak, which, no, we're not looking at Ahsoka because we have no idea what that. I love me some Stupendous Wave, the Star Wars YouTuber, but he was doing some videos talking about like theoretical fight. Like he did Abeloth versus Anakin and why Anakin would win, except it was all theoretical on how strong he is as a theoretical concept of what he may be at this point. So I'm like, dude, that's so clickbaity. It's like it's not even, or it's so not clickbaity, but it's so kind of not. It's so kind of lying to what the basis of the video was. And we'll look at Anakin pretty much as peak in Revenge of the Sith. Although, hypothetically, anything Vader was capable of doing, Anakin should have been capable as well. Because Vader had to kind of work his way back up. Anakin had gone to the dark side by the end of Revenge of the Sith. So anything that Vader is more or less capable of doing, Anakin should be able to do as well. So we can give him that leeway to kind of up his power a bit. I'll be honest, I don't think we need it. As a Jedi, he is trained in the Jedi ways, which means he was trained in the light side of the Force. Now, abilities Anakin used in the light side aren't all that many that we saw. I mean, he uses the standard Force ability of telekinesis, and he uses it to a frightening degree. Force push, moving things, moving multiple objects while never moving his hands. He could just literally use his mind and fight while he's doing it. That's how he overcame Luke in their fight in Empire. I mean, he was going to overcome Luke anyway, but that's how he got the one-up on Luke. He's also capable of augmenting his physical abilities with the Force, enhanced jumping, enhancing his physicality, creating a dome to protect himself from certain levels of attacks. He's obviously, one of the big things, he's got his weapon of choice is his lightsaber, a blue with a blue kyber crystal, although eventually he probably would convert it to red. But with a blue kyber crystal, he was trained in many forms, but the form he preferred was Form 5, which is the offensive form. It's about power strikes and just kind of pressing your opponent. Obviously, a lightsaber is a beam of concentrated plasma concentrated into a blade, and there are very few things in the Star Wars galaxy that is immune or resistant to lightsabers. There are substances. Beskar we know is one. Whatever the material Vader's suit was not immune but resistant. It could take a blow from a lightsaber, though if someone were just like you press one right into him, they would obviously kill him. But he could like survive like just a boom. It would hurt. He'd feel it, but it would glance. So there are lightsaber resistant materials. Spoilers: Aang has nothing of the sort. Beyond that, though, Anakin has other abilities as well in the Force. If he had gone full dark side as Anakin and become Vader as Anakin, he most likely would have learned Force lightning. Although we can't give it to him because that's speculative. Although there's evidence to support that. We know he can sustain his life force with the Force. Not necessarily a Force healing, but kind of just keep his body stable for a time being. We know Vader can do that, so we know Anakin should be able to do that as well. He can do the Jedi mind trick, obviously. And unlike, say, Aang, who isn't actually the chosen one, he's just kind of turned into something similar to that. Anakin, by all accounts, was the chosen one. As far as we know, there's been speculation on whether or not Luke was actually the chosen one, and that could actually be the case. But people always point out, too, it wasn't Luke who beat the Sith. It wasn't Luke who threw Darth Sidious down the shaft. It was Vader. Although, you can make the argument that because Luke did save Vader, he did, and then Vader killed, you could make an argument that Luke was the chosen one. It's a fun little argument to have. Like, there's no definitive answer, but up until that point, Anakin was the chosen one. He was selected by the Force to bring balance. He was stronger, or had the potential to be the strongest there ever was. So that does put him in a different category of spiritual energy, I suppose we'll say, like a spiritual, what his spirit could do, hypothetically, than Aang does. Does that make his Aang spirit stronger than Anakin's? We'll hold on that for a moment. Anakin also, when he died, did learn how to become a Force ghost. There was that too. Now, there are a list of other more minor abilities. Jedi mind tricks, as I said. Tuna Menace is one that, I believe it's, no, Shatterpoint, sorry. Shatterpoint is one that, Luke learned. We can assume that Anakin probably knew it, though he probably never used it. Maybe. I mean, it would fall into the category of something to use. That Anakin probably would have used. But Anakin, while he couldn't strategize, was a little bit more on the just aggressive side of things. And he was an accomplished duelist. Like, the dude could go, by Revenge of the Sith, only Obi-Wan was really skilled enough. I mean, Yoda probably could have taken Anakin. In fact, I'll scratch that. Yoda definitely could have taken Anakin. But Obi-Wan's defensive form was a lot more effective to keep him at bay and stalemate him. Sidious could also still probably beat Anakin in a straight out duel. We know that. But yeah, apart from maybe Windu, maybe there was very few at that point who could beat Anakin in a straight out duel. So, with that said, who would win in a fight? In a hypothetical where, say, Anakin is still around by Revenge of the Sith, or maybe if there's during the Revenge of the Sith, we can maybe use that as an example. Anakin, before going to the Separatists and Trade Federation and wiping them out, goes to this planet, this Avatar Earth, whatever it is, because Sidious says, I sense something forming on this planet. Go and check my apprentice. And so he goes and he checks things out. He kind of, asks some questions. Finally, at the Fire Nation attack, he just, stops the fire with telekinesis, just kills him. Aang finally shows up. What's going on? He's like, you should leave now while you can. When just Aang blasts him in a blast of wind, which he cannot stop. The Force, technically, I guess, could stop the wind, but he's not prepared for that. He gets blown back, but he stops himself with the Force, just pulls out his lightsaber, and the fight goes down. Now, Aang's unfortunately going to be on a lot of the defensive on this fight. Anakin is very aggressive, has telekinesis, which the telekinesis alone puts Aang at an actually big disadvantage. It's something that no amount of bending can protect him against. Even if he creates a wall, using the Force, he could find Aang and just literally pull him through the wall. He can hold back Earth. We know Vader has moved ships with the Force. Unless Aang goes into the Avatar state, which admittedly I did forget to mention the Avatar state, which gives you all the experience of the other avatars, and pretty much it makes him like a continent destroyer, I think, or at least something on that level. Unless Aang is using the Avatar state, there's no amount of elemental anything apart from maybe wind that he can throw at Anakin that Anakin can't just stop with telekinesis. Anakin can rush in, move in quick, and go in for the kill. But that's where Aang's other elements come in. And he might go in for the kill with a lightsaber. And Aang can maybe, with a local body of water, just douse Anakin. And this is a big thing about lightsabers. They're held together by a magnetic field. With the exception of Kit Fisto, who modified his lightsaber to function underwater, lightsabers will short out underwater. They don't work underwater because of that magnetic field. So, now that being said, you can have a lightsaber get splashed by water, and it'll just usually evaporate it. But ultimately, if like the entire lightsaber just gets dipped underwater, the entirety of it will short out. So Aang basically kind of just like blasts him, and the lightsaber shorts out temporarily. And then Anakin just pulls Aang again, who blasts him with wind, and they're kind of like blowing each other back, but Anakin's pulling him along. Aang then fires fire at him instead. He's just like, ugh! He's able to get his lightsaber back on. It shorts out. It doesn't like break. Turns his lightsaber back on. And so they're going at it. And this would happen and this would keep going on for a while. He might even try to like use a mind trick on him, but it quickly doesn't work. Eventually he just grabs Aang by the throat. The Force is strong with you, but you must be with my master sense. I cannot allow you to threaten me. He can't even like focus on doing any bending. And he's about to snap his neck before Aang just Avatar states. He's and Anakin goes boom, like skidding like a stone. Just, and then Anakin is now, or Aang is now full on Avatar mode, unleashing all hell on Anakin, who is now fighting for his life, running, dodging, throwing what he can. Like telekinesis doesn't do anything. Telekinesis now isn't working because Aang is throwing out so much energy and has so much level of power output that he can't overpower Aang. So Anakin is now trying the best. He like lifts, like I don't know, kind of like what Aang maybe fires out like a big concentrated blast of all the elements. Anakin, using all his hate and rage, just kind of wings it back at Aang. Ultimately, Aang finally just comes in, grabs like, I don't know what this power is, but this is over, and just grabs him and holds him by the head. And the fight for their souls begins. So Aang is the bridge of the spirit world. If we're assuming that, that includes Force spirits, Force ghosts, all that hypothetically means he should be able to overpower Anakin. But Anakin is the chosen. He is the chosen. He was born through the Force. So because of that, it's debatable whether or not Aang has enough spirit to overpower Anakin, or Anakin has enough spirit to overpower Aang. I will say because he is the bridge between two worlds, whereas Anakin technically isn't, I think he could overpower Anakin. Now, it does come at a cost, though. Like, he finally finishes it. He somehow locks away Anakin's connection to the Force. Anakin, though, just he basically gets a blade in the gut for getting so close. Because Anakin, I think, is much stronger than Ozai, so he maybe is aware of what's going on. So either during or before Anakin's power, like Force ability, steal away, he just and Anakin and Aang just gets stabbed again, just sliced in half. And then Anakin just he's got like a headache. He's and Aang is just and even with the Avatar state, he's just and then just through his head. And so Aang would die. He like straight out kills Aang, and the Avatars are now screwed. Why do I think Anakin wins? It comes down to several things. One, while Aang has a lot of versatility, and Anakin admittedly has not displayed a huge variety of Force techniques, his overall power in the Force, especially when we factor in how strong he could be with his Vader level of strength, shows that just with telekinesis alone, he would be giving Aang a serious problem because he could just neg most of the attacks Aang's throwing at him and then throw him right back. At any point, he could force choke Aang and just hold him there, which would probably force Aang into the Avatar state. He's constantly wielding a heated blade of plasma that could chop him any attack he has pretty much clean in two. Well, any physical attack. The wind, the fire, the water would be problematic, but that's where the Force comes in. He's a much more trained and seasoned warrior than Aang, which means he knows how to actually avoid attacks better, knows how to actually go in for actual kill, capitalizing on your opponent's weak point. But it comes down ultimately to Aang is still a pacifist at heart. He wouldn't try to kill Anakin if he didn't have to. So more than likely, he'd try to go for the taking the bending away ability, or in this case, taking the Force ability away from Anakin. But the problem is Anakin was born of the Force. Well, Aang is a conduit and a bridge between the two worlds, spirit and the living world. Therefore, if we're talking in the continuity of the same world, he should have at least a bridge or connection to the spirit Force world as well. Anakin was literally born of the Force. He was born for a reason from the Force and was far stronger than almost anyone else at that point. Which means even if he's not the bridge between the spirit world, his spiritual abilities and spiritual essence is probably far beyond that of like Ozai, who was just stuck there and couldn't do anything. Whereas I have a feeling Anakin would actually still be very aware of what's going on and maybe even still able to function on some capability. And that capability of function is what would give him the win, because he's still holding a heated blade of death in his hand, and Aang has to get in close, which means it's like, oh, and Aang just has to just roll back and just slice him in half, and then just end it. So I go Anakin in this fight. I think Aang, though, would be someone who would give Anakin a pretty hard fight, because he's just got so much versatility built into his character. But this is just my opinion. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.